Without wasting much time,
Okay.
let's get your opinion on this particular revelation made by the International Organization for Migration, saying that two Nigerians, were among the 49 persons or 46 that they are looking for at this point in time, after they confirmed that a particular vessel carrying 49 individuals capsized, somewhere in the Mediterranean Sea. And we know also that we've gotten so much information about people trying to migrate, trying to move to Europe from Libya. Crossing the Mediterranean Sea is also a challenge. Two Nigerians, luckily for us, were among the people that were alive, and two are still missing. What do you have to say about this? Recent reports also pointed out that over 1,000 lives have been lost on the Mediterranean Sea.
I first even want to disagree with that figure. The number of Nigerians that have lost their life trying to flee from this country is definitely going to be way more than that. And over the years, people have not stopped, despite the fact that they get the information firsthand that people are dying, people are getting arrested, trying to flee the country. It just shows to you of the hardship that people are willing to escape and face in order to rescue themselves from the country. A country like Nigeria with so much resources, so much opportunities that the government has refused to package and give to the people should not have people fleeing. How many times do we hear people fleeing from Canada through that method, or the US, or UK? But here in Nigeria, with our abundant resources, it keeps happening. So it's sad, and it's not going to stop. We're going to get more news of people fleeing, and it's definitely an economic situation.
All right, then. Well, if you say it's an economic situation, a lot of persons who want to beg to differ because of the fact that it is not just Nigerians who are crossing the Mediterranean to Europe via Libya. Some of the countries also have their citizens do the same. But the question I want to find out from you is, how can these be navigated? That we have young Nigerians, because I dare say at this point, it's about the young Nigerians who believe that the land is green on the other side, thus the reason why they want to migrate to Europe. How can these be navigated on the part of government and, of course, on the part of the people who also love to want to leave the shores of Nigeria to some other parts of Europe for greener pastures? How can these be navigated truly?
I would be very glad to read the news of somebody from UK trying to pass the Mediterranean Sea to come to Nigeria, or somebody from Canada, then that would be a balanced story. But you hardly hear such, they come into the country, fly normally to do business, and they go back. Or Nigerians try to flee. To mitigate it is simple. It's an economic situation. There's nobody will want to go through an open sea with a boat. It's not even a ship most of the time. A boat that you have someone that's piloting it that you don't know, to die of starvation, thirst, or capsizing on an open sea. Nobody in his right senses will want to do that. It is the fact that we have a country of poor economic situation which has driven majority into having mental problem. There's statistics that 60 million Nigerians have mental problems that are not treated. So mental problem is what's going to take you to go that route. So nothing can stop it except we solve the problem of our economy. The only thing we can say, okay, the Navy should protect our shoreline properly. That's all. But that is still not going to solve the problem.
How can that actually happen, where we learned also from the committee in charge of our borders that it is only, I think, 84 thereabouts of our borders at this point in time that is manned. So how are they going to do it? We have about 1,900 and some fractions of borders in Nigeria. 1,800 and something also is unmanned. So how do you expect the Navy at this point to protect your shoreline? I remember that this shipwreck that happened did not happen on the soil of Nigeria. It happened somewhere in Libya when people are trying to cross the Mediterranean Sea to Europe.
Even the 84 is definitely a wrong information. I can almost say that our shoreline are not properly manned. The places that they are even manned, they are corrupt in the sense that there are some naval officers, armed forces that you will pay and they will allow you to pass. If you want to go and die, nothing concerns there, just drop money. So if 84 is not correct, And yes, this shipwreck, an accident will not happen on the shoreline of Nigeria, of course. It will happen where there are high wave tide. That's where it's going to happen. So some of them have smuggled themselves to Morocco first, or smuggled themselves to Libya before they carry on with the journey. So manning the shoreline and all that is not going to solve the problem. It's an economic problem. Make your country better, make the living condition in your country worthwhile, then reduce the problem naturally.
Okay, well, I like the part where you said make the country better, and the people would not want to leave the country as it were. But again, I think on one part, maybe the presidency seem to be listening to voices like yours on the part where they have decided at this point to collaborate with the people in the diaspora, asking clearly for a clear understanding between the diasporans and, of course, the people in the country. They highlighted, the vice president did highlight that at this point, clear investment is needed. And of course, concerns are being raised about the outlook of Nigeria in the diaspora, which again is the reason why this call is being made. In fact, the vice president did say prosperity can accelerate when, of course, the public and the private sector and, of course, global diaspora work together with a shared purpose. What's the position with these statements from the vice president, particularly on the change reform agenda of this administration?
Thank you so much. Well, what I've seen by this government, the regime of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is so much talks. They are so engaged with the media and less implementation. Of course, no shadow of doubt that if you take advantage of your diaspora strength, you can even use that to build your economy. That's what India did, China, and the rest. But here in Nigeria, what our diaspora are currently facing is when they come back to the country to do business, they are facing kidnapping. Some of them are facing kidnapping regularly. They have to pay high security fee to be saving to go to their village. Some of them, when they are out of the country, the money they send to do business, the business they seize their land, the business is stolen. There's no protection of their investment. It's even difficult for them to send funds, and they cannot even vote, even though many of them have voters cards. So these are a lot of issues. So we are clearly not taking advantage of that diaspora strength that we have, and we have it all over the world. The UK, the US, Canada, everywhere. Nigerians are there, and they are doing well. How can you be doing well, and it's difficult for you to invest your money on your own country? So it is clearly the right path to take, but all I've seen for this government is much talk and less implementation.
So when you say all you've seen from the government is much talk and less action, are you also saying that they've not really, identified the fact that people in diaspora are central pillar to our foreign policy alongside even democracy? Because that is what the Vice President Shetima is saying here, that the Renewed Hope agenda have been able to identify this. And I think that's the reason they are calling for this collaboration, between Nigerians and those in diaspora.
Let me tell you why they are calling for collaboration now. They are calling for collaboration because they need the voices of the diaspora to speak for them towards the issue of the US, Donald Trump, on the genocide occurring in Nigeria. That's one. Two, they are speaking now because, as we all know, we have just 2026 in the middle of our election. Election is around the corner already. So the APC government needs every support it can, not because they want to implement these things for the betterment of Nigeria. Remember, anything we are talking about is for the betterment of Nigerians, living in Nigeria and those abroad. But they are not saying that because of this. They are saying that because of those two things that I've highlighted, because it's serious government. Upon starting your government in 2023, Those are the major things that you should have been doing. You have an ambassador already. You already have a diaspora structure. What have they been using the diaspora structure to do? So
The
for me,
president
it's
is yet
just
to appoint ambassadors, for them to take care of maybe a foreign affairs ambassador, and also even the diplomatic role too. They are yet to assume the diplomatic role that is supposed to do or play for Nigeria.
So they are not serious then. If you are not already structured that from the beginning of your government, even from your campaign 2023, that is not a serious government. So the discussion now is just for their benefit against Trump and towards the election.
When you say that the reason for them to bring up this at this point in time is for them to have a safe landing, I'm talking about the government having a safe landing as regards the genocide and the statements surrounding it, which was some people have come up to say it's not that way and all that. I would like to get your opinion on this, please. In Nigeria, do we have people being killed? Do you align with that line of thought that there is Christian genocide in Nigeria? That's the first question to start with.
Thank you so much. Yes, first you remember that when this started, the United States took months to trend the issues first on Twitter and X of the genocide occurring in Nigeria. They were trending it. The Nigerian government avoided the discussion. The Christian community that were even being mentioned avoided the discussion. But they moved further, using the president of the United States to declare what they will do if that continues. That was what got the attention of our government. Let me backtrack again. Before the trend of that Christian genocide, the people of Benue have been protesting that they are dying. The people of Jos have been protesting that they are dying. What the government do? The government will even go and counter their protests or arrest or tear gas them, saying keep quiet, don't talk about the news. When the noise of Benue was so much, Bola Ahmed Tinubu was forced to go to Benue, just a show of shame, ceremony, not really to go and solve the problem. But immediately Trump started taking it personal. They saw it as a discussion. Why should we get to that level of a government that the government refuse to recognize the pain of their people, even when their people are crying, but until when a foreign government is talking about regulations, what do we do before they speak about it?
So now I ask again in clear terms, what is your stand on the Christian genocide? Do you align with that line of thought that we have in Christian genocide in Nigeria, or are you against that?
Yeah, so to the issue of genocide, it will be criminally minded, hateful and wrong for anybody to say there's no genocide in Nigeria.
When you say it will be criminally wrong, the likes of Sheikh Ahmad Gumi, somewhere in Turkey, he sent a message to the world, telling the world that there was a discussion he had with a doctor, and that doctor made him understand that people of the Middle Belt and region in Nigeria are burying empty coffins for them to malign the Nigerian nation as well as stall the movement of the Sharia law in Nigeria.
It is sad that Gumi, who paraded himself as a terrorist apologist throughout Buhari's government, is still today speaking for the terrorists. It's only in Nigeria that somebody will sit down and say you should give amnesty to people that are going to shoot people in villages, kill children, and kill women as they are cooking, and still yet the press keep giving him attention. There's genocide in Nigeria. There's Christian genocide, there's Muslim genocide, there's atheist genocide, there's the genocide of the people. My stand is that the genocide is not just against the Christian. The Muslims are also dying. In fact, some statistics say that the Muslims are even dying more. But the reason why the Muslims don't seem to be talking more about their death is because the Muslim religion seems to accept death like, oh, it has accepted, let's move on. But Christians are not. But this is the issue. As a government, you have the responsibility to protect your people, regardless of their religion. Yours as a government is not to be trying to differentiate who is dying or who is not dying. Whether the person is an atheist, a Christian, or a Muslim, Nigerians are dying in drones.
I like the fact that you've identified the primary responsibility of the government. But let's talk about another institution that has come out boldly to make a statement, particularly on this Christian genocide. I'm talking about the African Union. Some have said that at this point, the African Union seemed to have a voice. From your position, what would you make of the dismissal of Christian genocide in the northern part of Nigeria by the African Union, a body that is supposed to clearly protect her own when it comes to insecurity and, of course, all that we see across Africa?
I will first start from the Nigerian government. The first response of the Nigerian government trying to use the propaganda of their people online is that there's no genocide. But they could not argue successfully, and they had to, cower and say, well, we are solving the problem. And you realize that the military started bringing out news every day on how they are tackling terrorism. For African Union, every responsible African know that African Union does not exist. What a group of old men that have owed Africa to ransom and using Africa for business. They do not care about unity. They do not care about the strength, the growth of Africa or any African country.
Let me get you right, please. Mr. Oni, let's get you right. When you say African Union does not exist, can you help us throw more light on that, please? We need to avoid misconception.
Yeah. There's European Union. There's the United States of America. There's the Brexit. There are different groups for a purpose internationally, and you will see their agenda clearly stated on how they are making sure there's a progress in their continent or a group of countries that are trying to work together. For African Union, it does not exist. The agenda of African Union is just to loot Africa for the West. They have no strength, they have no purpose, they have no direction. Who are the African Union? Who are
should these be blamed? Should these be blamed on colonial masters of individual states in Africa? Because you know for a fact that, let's use Nigeria as an example. Nigeria was colonized by, of course, the British. And clearly, we cannot say the same for Cote d'Ivoire, Mali, and the likes. Should we blame the part of not having a strong institution in African Union to our colonialists, who, again, seem like to be the paymasters of some of these states in Africa?
The foundation of all the problems in Africa, of course, nobody can rule out the colonial masters. Nobody. They still have their foot right on the throat of the continent, from France to UK to the US, of course. But you see, this is 60 years after. 1960, 1966, 1956, 1954, many years after the independence of different African countries. What has put us to be continuously in this mess is because we have not had the opportunity to have a lot of responsible leaders in Africa, Nigeria, that don't have a mind of their own, don't have vision or strength of their own, don't care about their people. If you do not give the colonial masters the opportunity to continue to loot your nation or your continent, they will not. They will step back. Many countries have done that. They have fought back over the years, and they are independent today. But Nigeria, and Africa, we just got independent by mouth. It did not happen by our resources or by our policies. Nigeria, as an example, is still using the policies of the World Bank, IMF, and co. Not policy for African or Nigerian people. So yes, we hold the colonial responsible for the foundation of our problem, but we should hold our leaders responsible more.
Now, the question I want to ask you is, if we're to hold them responsible after 65 years, for example, in Nigeria of independence, who will China hold responsible for their booming economy? Who will India hold responsible for their also booming economy? Because these countries were colonized at some point. And then when you say also that the problem we have has to do with Africa not having visionary leaders, what will happen to the likes of Julius Nyerere? What will happen to the likes of Jomo Kenyatta? What will happen to Nelson Mandela? And a whole lot of other leaders that Africa have produced, which we know are reverend men. What will happen to them? We have the Haile Selassie of Ethiopia, the single man who said we don't want any colonial invasion And he was able to do it. He pushed it out. He defended Ethiopia still somewhere in the United Nations. At the end of the day, what can we say about all these other nations at this present time? And when did we get it wrong?
Of course, we celebrate all past African leaders that have stood for Africa. They are our talking points, and we use them, the Thomas Sankara and the ones that you have mentioned. And as you have observed, the British, UK, UN have made sure one way or the other they send all those people out of power. Thomas Sankara was removed and killed. Lumumba was removed and killed. There are other examples, and that's the same thing they are trying. They still want to continue to do, but it remains that a country like Nigeria have not showed enough good example. There's no strength in Africa. There's no African unity. Nigeria is a factor to that. We are not doing that. The Sahel are trying to unite. And you said something quickly that look at China. They were also colonized, but they fought hard with real leadership to strengthen their economy, and they are still fighting. They are still making sure that the US, UK are not putting their foot on their neck. It's a continuous process, and it must never stop. In Nigeria, we have not.
So we should throw away that book written by Walter Rodney on how Europe underdeveloped Africa and focus on the one written by an African on how Africa underdeveloped Africa. Is that what you're saying at this point?
No, we hold forth to that book, and we must continue to show the Europeans that they underdevelop Africa.
Do you share also the line of thought that is more like at this point to having a modern scramble and maybe further partitioning of Africa by some people who think that they are superior with the recent happening in Africa? For example, the war in DR Congo have also been thought to be a targeted attempt on mining of their gold. Check the South Sudan, though we know that place they have a civil war, but all the same, some people have come up to say that they are being sponsored by people who are benefiting from it. Nigeria, where we are broadcasting from, some have also pointed fingers to some blocks, saying that they are the ones masterminding the continuous insecurity due to the illegal mining activities that they are doing also. And if you check out what happened between the French and their people, I'm talking about their colonists, when they come up to say we don't need them again, they should leave. How wounded they were and how heartbroken the French were when they were leaving some of their colonialists, some of their boys. Will I use that word now? Are we going to say we're going to see another scramble and partition of Africa as of Berlin Conference in a modern day time?
Yes, there's a need for Africa. That points to the fact that there's a need for Africa to also stand together. Not standing together to destroy any continent like they have destroyed us, but stand together to do things for Africa. If there is unity in our continent, these colonial masters will stay away, or they will respect you enough to be able to do business with you out of respect. Notice what is going on as we speak. There's illegal mining going on in Nigeria by China, by the Lebanese, and all these things are orchestrated by your government. So it simply shows that they have pushed Nigerians to the highest bidder, and we must get our country back.
All right, then. Well, on the part of security, I still want to stay with you in this conversation. On the part of security, there are concerns about the fact that in Europe, there is NATO, that clearly is a joint combined military force, which again helps in the fight when it comes to insecurity around Europe. Africa is yet to have a combined military force. Some have said this would be stalled as a result of the colonialists that we have all across African states. Is there a possibility that these would ever see the light of the day? And I'm talking about combined military efforts to tackling insecurity clearly across Africa, more like what the Saharan states are doing right now, before we jump to another conversation.
So there have been joint task force at the borders in the
just within some states.
Yes, it's presently.
Just within some states.
Task force, yes, but they have not, like you actually said, they have not been a true United Africa military front. What has happened in the past is that African countries with stronger military have gone ahead to help rescue some other countries from terrorists. You know, Nigeria have done that. We have helped so many countries in the past, including South Africa, you know, where we send our military forces down there, you know, Liberia, you know. But yes, they have not been there. And yeah, like you said, colonial masters don't want them to exist. They prefer to use Nigeria as their military camp or their target point in which to invade other communities. But the truth is this: you should defend yourself and prepare for war, but you should not be so quick to go into war. NATO is causing a lot of problems in the world right now. One of the reasons why Russia and Ukraine war exists today is because of the NATO forces. The NATO forces are saying they can stay in Ukraine, but Russia is saying no. If NATO is in Ukraine, they're already at our border. We will not allow that. That was one of the major reasons why Russia and the Ukraine went into war. But that should not be the case. The resources of Africa, and I want to say very clearly, the resources of Africa is enough for every continent to benefit from.
Exactly. Talking about resources now.
There is no need to use war, hardship, pain, terrorism to steal those resources. You can come, bring what you have to offer, and we will give you what we want to offer. It's not that you now come through the back door like China is doing, mining our resources. You respect me enough, trade by barter. I have this, I need this. You give me this, I give you that. There's no need for war, and there's no need for all this terrorism. But because of greed of African leaders, greed of world leaders, that is why they are poor. Look at what Congo is going through. Congo is one of the richest.
Talking about having resources and a whole lot of faith, Mr. Oni, we learned that Nigeria again misses to meet our OPEC quota. I'm talking about the production per day of the crude oil. We hit 1.401 million barrels per day production against what our quota should be, you know, with the OPEC. And what does this really portend when you say we have more than enough resources? And let's also get your opinion on the fact that the federal government have halted once again the policy of increasing 5% duty on
15%.
diesel and 15%, thank you so much, David, on duty, on imported diesel and petrol. One, it was a 5% on every PM. I was talking about the pump price, which is supposed to start from 1st of January, and now they're halting this. What do you have to say about that, please?
It is sad, like you said, that we are supposed to be oil-producing country, not oil dropping country. No, removing duty is supposed to be what should be done by countries that have no oil at all. That all they depend on is the importation of oil, but in a country where we have it in abundance, that all that is needed for us is just to have working refineries across board, we are still talking about duty and duty. So it is sad. And Nigerians should not bother themselves about this news. So I saw a clause by the federal government that said, there should not be any panic buying. Why would there not be panic buying?
Are we doing trial by error at this point? Just in 1 minute, because we're pressed for time. This is not the first time this administration is going back or reneging on some of the principles that they pushed out. First, we have it with the 5% pay. I'm talking about tax now imposed on any fuel you buy, pump price, and then this 15% duty now has been cancelled. We also saw what happened with the clemency list, mercy prerogative list that was also pushed out. And what do you make of this? Because in one breath we're getting this, and another breath we're taking it back, and help us actually walk around in just 1 minute, please.
So it is very simple. If you are not producing, if you are not refining your resources by yourself, your economy will never be stable. Your economy will be dependent on the decision of world policy. That is why they keep changing. So if UK sneezes, we have to change. If US sneezes, we have to change. Basically, that's what is going on. But the Tinubu's regime have not done anything significant to improve the economy of Nigeria. It's simply just loan, borrow, get it, and sell your resources.
All right, thank you so very much, Mr. Ayoyin Kaoni, for your submission there.